It's the final home game of the season for the Miami Hurricanes. Tyler Van Dyke is back under center. What's going to happen?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. To the everydayers, we absolutely love you, and we are available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Excited to preview this Saturday matchup. Hurricanes 6-4, taking on a Louisville Cardinals team 9-1 on the season. And if Louisville wins, they secure a spot in the ACC Championship game. Miami would like to stop that from happening. So you're going to see coming up, we're going to cross over. We're going to magically appear on two channels at once, Locked On Canes and Locked On Louisville. Buckle up. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. He's Dalton Pence from Locked On Louisville. So you've got Louisville with ACC Championship aspirations, Miami just trying to figure out who the heck they are in these final couple of games. Dalton, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Alex. I'm doing good. Appreciate the opportunity to connect a lot, riding on this matchup for the Cardinals. I'm interested to talk about a Miami team that I have been adamant all year on absolutely not knowing what to expect from. So I'm interested to get your take on it, obviously by what we've talked about pre-show, it seems like you're almost in the same boat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, before ACC play started, first four games, I thought, Miami could be pretty dominant this year. Then the ACC starts, and they are capable of losing to or beating any team on the schedule. You never know which Miami's going to show up. And for you, I mean, I mentioned ACC Championship aspirations for Louisville, they can make that a reality this Saturday. What's the biggest storyline from a Louisville side heading into this game?
I think that there's two. I think that that's the primary one for sure. I mean, it's really not hard to look into that. Thought it wasn't really going to have to be a storyline while watching North Carolina and Duke, but a little bit of officiating there had it into an interesting situation. But we're in a solid spot now to where, what was 95% chance to make the ACC Conference Championship game, according to a lot of betting sites out there. But I think if you asked a lot of Louisville fans, even though you can still get in by not beating Miami, the focus is, let's just go ahead and take care of business. The second storyline, the secondary one, is that the Cardinals have never in program history gone down to Coral Gables and come out with a victory. They are, I think, 0-6-1 all time. And outside of that, let's face it, Alex, the Cardinals really haven't been that good on the road as it is this season. So I think that that's something that we're looking for is, okay, they can win in the 502, but when you take them out of the Derby City, can Louisville be as potent as they have been at home? And I think that that's the main storyline.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think that when you were talking about what to expect or not to expect from Miami, you were definitely on the right track. Biggest storyline in South Florida these last few days have been having to, by necessity, turn back to Tyler Van Dyke as starting quarterback and how he's going to handle that. I thought offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson, who spoke Monday, added some perspective. This kind of thing has happened before with quarterbacks getting benched, getting a second opportunity. He brought up Jalen Milroe at Alabama. That happened to him week 3, and he's, turned into a completely different quarterback. I don't know if we're going to see Tyler Van Dyke have quite that much success, but obviously there is a blueprint, and you could see, quarterbacks who have gotten benched who had that second opportunity. But, part of the reason, Dalton, why Miami's been such a Jekyll and Hyde team this year is just not getting consistency at the quarterback position. I was watching your show the other day, and you mentioned double-digit turnovers. Tyler Van Dyke, he's thrown 12 interceptions on the season. That's what got him benched in the first place in favor of Emory Williams. And, Emory Williams wasn't just a magic wand to wave on the offense, because being a true freshman, he had his limitations. They kept the game plan very controlled and buttoned up for him. But they went to him for a reason. And unfortunately, he breaks his arm late in the game against Florida State. And so Tyler Van Dyke is the man again. And there's high upside there. Obviously when Tyler's on, first 4 games of the season in the month of September, he was the highest rated quarterback in college football per Pro Football Focus. And then it just really took a nosedive after that. And I think one of the areas where, and it's easy for me to say this from the outside looking in, because I don't know what's really going on with him psychologically, who knows, but a lot of his struggles maybe seem to be psychological, and, maybe losing his confidence, having trouble reading defenses. And so can he get his confidence back? And, seems to me like his teammates are going to, have an easy time rallying around him, but hopefully he doesn't have those interceptions again, because that was a big time frustration for him. And so, can he get his weapons involved? Because we're going to talk about this, I'm sure, throughout this crossover, Dalton, that both of these teams, they love to stop the run. So, you look at Jack Plummer on the Louisville side, Tyler Van Dyke on the Miami side. I think whoever wins this game is going to have to hit some big plays through the passing game. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. And I think that it really kind of comes down to, and I guess we'll talk about it as well, as who, if either of these teams is going to be able to set the tone on the ground. But Alex, one question that I really have in terms of sort of where this team is at and where the program is at specifically, right? Mario Cristobal last year, not the greatest season, 5-7 overall. This year, a little improvement, but still sitting at 6-4. And judging based upon how talented this team is, obviously I don't necessarily have the greatest pulse on what the Miami fan base has been like this year. But after that loss to, what was it? Was it Georgia Tech? On that on
the non-knee.
Yeah, but I'm seeing a lot of comments now. Granted, that might not necessarily represent the majority, but how much at stake is it for Cristobal to win, these next 2 games, or at least win one of the next 2? Because I have to think that with this talent, that sort of can't be all that acceptable for this program.
No, it's certainly not. And it seems to be one frustration after the next, because, on the one hand, I have no doubt Miami is significantly more talented than they were last year when they went 5-7. But at the end of the day, they may only have one more win this year to show for it. And so, honestly, I think there's a little bit of envy down here in South Florida as to, how quickly Jeff Brom up at Louisville, who has been able to, turn it into a team that's about to more than likely play for an ACC championship. Has that been a surprise at how quickly that team pulled a 180 under Brom?
I think coming into the preseason, there was a lot of hopeful optimism, maybe even a little bit too much, in my opinion. I mean, there were people all over the place saying this team's going to win 10 games. And I'm like, man, let's pump the brakes just a little bit. And now I'm like, okay, who should really be hosting this podcast? Because, they're kind of close to right now at 9-1. But, with what Brom did in the portal was incredible. Took the job unexpectedly, or in an unexpected situation, was always kind of the guy for the job. But I think that there was a lot of this fan base that felt like there was going to be a significant improvement, because Scott Satterfield showed multiple times that he wasn't the guy for the job, and that the team was always better than the record suggested. But competing for the ACC, look, Alex, I always said that this team was a dark horse candidate. I didn't necessarily expect Clemson to be as bad as they are. I honestly thought North Carolina could have a shot to run the table, and it surprises me some, but it didn't necessarily catch a lot of people off guard.
Well, when we come back, we'll talk about key matchups that could decide this game. And listen, our friends at FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On, it's a 1.5-point spread with Louisville favored, Miami underdogs, which is essentially a pick 'em. I mean, when you're picking a side in this game, you're probably thinking about betting the money line either way, because it is so close. What matchups could decide this game, and which X factor players might be able to step up? You want to keep it locked right here to this awesome crossover collaboration on the Locked On Podcast Network. And I hope you're keeping it locked to eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thank you so much for making this Locked On crossover your first listen and your first watch. We're available on YouTube, Locked On Canes, or Locked On Louisville, and available wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to see the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It truly is awesome. I was just taking some time kind of sitting around watching it throughout the day today. Yeah, it really was awesome. And Dalton Pence from Locked On Louisville. I'm Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. Let's talk about key matchups, Dalton. And I'll start because from where I sit,
Sure.
I see two teams that love to run the football offensively and love to stop the run defensively. So, like right there, and I can definitely say from a Miami point of view, how much success Miami can have against Louisville's top 10 rushing defense against that vaunted front line of the Cardinals is really going to tell the story of the football game. That's going to take pressure off of Van Dyke's shoulders. And we also, I don't know how Braum is when it comes to injury news, because Mario Cristobal gives you next to nothing, right? Some weeks he'll say, oh, this guy, he's good to go this week, and then we don't see him for another 2-3 weeks. So I am of the assumption that Miami's running back committee, because they really do go by committee, is as healthy as they've been in a few weeks, because I'm led to believe A.J. Allen has a good chance of returning this week. Mark Fletcher will probably continue to carry a heavy load, the true freshman. Don Chaney was really good against Florida State. So how much success can these guys have against Louisville's front? And Louisville with talented running backs of their own. Miami's got a top 7 rushing defense. If they can try to force Jack Plummer to try to win the game, I think on both sides of the football, Dalton, matchups like that could end up deciding this one.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one aspect of this, and it's been a talking point over the past couple of weeks for Louisville, it was definitely shown last Thursday against Virginia, is the health of Jawar Jordan. Jawar has been battling a hamstring issue over the past couple games. It held him out against Pittsburgh, all but 2 carries, got a little bit healthier in the bye week, had some solid performances against Duke and Virginia Tech, but showed that he's still not 100% against Virginia, looked a step slow, and that's one of his main features, is that, electric speed, that I could score every time I touch the football type talent. That's going to be the main thing to focus on here. I still think that regardless of who they come in against, the focus is going to be the same with either Jordan, Isaac Guerendo, Maurice Turner, a combination of the 3. That's to try to set the tone, build the pass off of the run. Now that is where things get a little bit tricky, though, because that is my biggest matchup, is Jack Plummer against this defense. Plummer, if you ask a lot of Louisville fans, Plummer is a game manager, and there's nothing wrong with a quarterback that doesn't lose you games. I mean, Louisville's 9-1. You can't really complain too much. He's top 5 in passing yards. But I think if you asked a lot of people, the ceiling of the team is sort of limited with him as the quarterback. The downfield accuracy has been an issue. The hesitancy with reads here and there. Going up against I wouldn't necessarily call them a pedestrian passing defense. I mean, 66th in the country is not terrible, especially when you're top 10 in generating sacks. So I think that that's going to be something for Plummer, is being able to go to the pass, because one thing Virginia did, Alex, is they laid out the blueprint on how you can beat Louisville. You stack the box and force Plummer to beat you. Now, granted, the Cardinals did what they had to do with big plays in the fourth quarter, but that's where you start to look as they're going up against a better team with a very talented front seven. There's going to be some pressure on the quarterback. How's Plummer going to respond? That's the main matchup here for me in this game.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head with Miami's pass defense. Because, yeah, you could even use the word pedestrian, because the bread and butter for the defense is the pass rush and stopping the run. So, sometimes you're gonna keep some corners in single coverage, and if there is a coverage breakdown, like there was a really bad coverage breakdown where they left a Florida State tight end just completely wide open. They had the wrong personnel on the field. So sometimes those things are going to happen because they sacrifice that a little bit to beat you in other areas. So there's no doubt about that. And the health of Miami's cornerback room has been an interesting one, because you had, the two outside corners who started last week hadn't started all season long. I thought they did a pretty good job, Damari Brown and Jadis Richard, if I'm going to say his name correctly, but it's something to look at. As far as X factors, a player or two on the Louisville side, you think, hey, if these guys show up, could be ball game?
Well, I think for me, it's going to be the secondary. Anthony Calandria, the Virginia quarterback situation has been kind of all around the place. That's sort of been the case for almost a lot of ACC schools, is what the hell's going on at the quarterback position, insert school here. Obviously, Miami, no different. But one thing for Louisville is that if the pass rush isn't getting home, it seems like the secondary has been struggling a bit. Jarvis Brownlee, Louisville star corner, or one of Louisville star corners, is not likely to play this week, according to Jeff Brom. So you're looking at North Carolina transfer Storm Duck, Quincy Riley stepping up. I look for them too. And the safety position, the main worry for me here is the big play down the field. And I know how much TVD likes to air it out. And if he's able to hit on some of those big plays, it could be an issue. So you could probably go with a couple players there. I'm going to go the secondary as a whole as being the X factor, because if they can force Van Dyke into bad situations and jump passing routes, make him do what he's already been able to do all season, and that's turn the football over, I feel like that spells well for Louisville. But if you let him throw all over the field to where you're giving Miami opportunities to get big-time chunk yardage plays, that's the main thing for me. So I'm going to go with the secondary here. What about you? I feel like this is you could go either way with this one when you have unexpected change at quarterback, but you also have a defense that it's really hard. They're so talented. It's just you can't really piece it all together.
Well, it's funny because when you were talking about the Louisville secondary, it's a perfect segue, because a guy that I've got to throw out there as an X factor is Xavier Restrepo, who is Tyler Van Dyke's roommate, very good friend. But Restrepo, he's kind of been invisible in recent weeks. First 6 games of the year, he was one of the top receivers in the ACC statistically through the North Carolina game. And the UNC game was really the last time he really showed out. Number 7 for Miami, who had 11 catches, 96 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game. Since the UNC game against Clemson, 7 catches, 26 yards. Against Virginia, 3 catches, 48 yards, no touchdowns in any of these games since North Carolina. Against NC State, just 3 catches for 35 yards. Against Florida State, he was on the field, 0 catches, 0 yards. So, Restrepo, who was really the bread and butter of Miami's offense early on, if he can show up again, that's going to be a big one. And you were kind of segueing into Miami's defense. A player who really caught fire for about 4 games in the middle of the season is Rueben Bain, Miami's true freshman defensive lineman. Some Miami fans, I don't think, are kind of being fair to him the last couple weeks, because he hasn't had sacks in the last 2 games, but Miami's defensive line has been so injured, they've had to use him a little bit more inside, and he hasn't had as many pass rushing opportunities. Also, the fact that he is a true freshman, not used to playing this much ball, he might be a little bit tired late in the season, but when Bain is on, he's virtually unblockable. When he's on, maybe he hasn't been as on Dalton the last couple weeks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
I don't mean to interrupt you, dude, but it's just I felt like that's the one thing about maybe keeping Scott Satterfield, is you would have gotten a couple of these guys, but regardless, I'm a big fan of Rueben Bain. Nothing that you're saying has surprised me in the slightest because I'm thinking, gosh, I've watched him all year thinking, if only.
Yeah,
If only.
he's a heck of a player. Like, for as many things as I can complain about, like, for the current state of the Miami Hurricanes, Rueben Bain, I watched this guy. I'm like, okay, we got him for at least 3. Well, hopefully, transfer portal. Obviously, hopefully he doesn't go anywhere, but got him for at least 3 years before he can leave for the NFL. Oh, it definitely makes me feel good. So when we come back, we're gonna offer our predictions again. The FanDuel odds razor tight. Louisville favored by 1.5. Miami. Dalton mentioned it. I don't know if history has anything to do with what's going to happen on Saturday, but Louisville has not won in South Florida 0-6-1 all time. I don't know if that really makes any difference, but it's definitely an interesting stat. And I also saw that before the game, and it definitely made me kind of wonder if that's going to come into play here. But my friends, you want to keep it locked right here on this crossover episode, Locked On Canes and Locked On Louisville, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Oh, we're having so much fun on FanDuel. This is the time of year to get into it. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. You can score early this NFL season and college football season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So you get $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on and kick off this NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thank you guys so much for making this Locked On crossover your first listen. And guys, Locked On, we've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube.
Game changer.
Locked On Sports Today. Absolutely. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And listen, hopefully, if we've got an exciting game this Saturday, Dalton, they'll be talking about it on Locked On Sports Today. What's your prediction? How's it going to go down?
That's how you know we'll have truly made it if we make the Locked On 24/7 show. But nobody else is doing that across any podcast network out there. Truly unrivaled, as the frequent listeners of both of these podcasts should know. Predictions, Alex, I mentioned before the show, and I have to reiterate it. When I talked about this matchup in particular in the offseason, looking ahead to the back end of the schedule, I always had this one circled, and I made sure that I said, I don't know what the hell is going to happen, truthfully, because Miami confuses me. And I was hoping that by this time on November 15th, that I would have a better understanding of what I'm going into in this game. It's even worse. I have zero clue as to what to expect. I think, and you mentioned it, you said something that I truly, truly gravitate towards. Miami can go 12-0 on this schedule, or they can go 6-6. They have the talent to beat everyone. It's a matter of which team is going to show up. How much fatigue plays into this after coming off of a very tough matchup against a Florida State team that's very physical? How much does the 2 days of rest help out the Louisville Cardinals in that sense when we're 2 games left in the regular season? Probably not much, but not much could definitely determine this game. I think my mind is telling me that Louisville's going to snap the streak this week, but I think it's close, Alex. I think we're possibly looking 27-24. I think if you're betting the spread, first of all, don't do that. Go money line. Yeah. But if you are betting the spread here, you're playing with fire. It's almost like flipping a coin, like Alex mentioned. I'm going Louisville here, 24-27. I think it's a big play at the end of the game that Louisville's able to make and win, or go to punch their ticket, I should say, for the ACC Championship game.
Yeah, we're really close when it comes to like the range and the score line. I'm going to go with the slight homer pick and go with Miami, fully acknowledging what you said. I don't know what no outcome would surprise me in this game. A blowout loss, a blowout win, a close win or loss, nothing would surprise me in this game. But I do think it's going to be It's going to be relatively low scoring because you've got two of the best defenses in the conference going head to head. I'm going to go 24-21 Miami. And, I'd like to, if Miami's going to pull it out, obviously I'd like to see Tyler Van Dyke have a turnover-free or close to turnover-free game because if nothing else, I'm not expecting him to remain in Miami next year, but I'd love the team to rally behind him for a strong finish.
Sure.
And he's a great guy, so I'd like to see him improve his stock, whether it's to head to the transfer portal or try to go pro, whatever it is. I'd love to see him improve his stock. And I'd like to see Miami's Groza Award candidate, Andres Borregales, have the opportunity maybe at a game-winning field goal to kind of bolster that resume. So I'm going to go with a close Miami 24-21 win, and give the fan base something to be positive about for a few days. But Dalton, unbelievable connecting with you, man. And I'm sorry that they teased us because they made this a yearly rivalry, and then they threw it in the garbage when they.
They took it
the
away.
Schnellenberger Trophy is on the line.
Man, I will say shout out to Howard as well. I do want to say before, I felt extremely sick to my stomach watching Emory go down with that injury last week. I do want to extend the thoughts and prayers from the Cardinals fan base. You realize that it's so much bigger than sports, and you never want to see any player of any team go down with any injuries. So regardless Tyler Van Dyke or whoever's at quarterback, you have our support here from the Louisville side of things.
Oh, I appreciate that. And yeah, these teams share the common bond of Howard Schnellenberger being an important part of each of their histories. So I don't know when we'll see it again, but we got the Schnellenberger Trophy on the line this year. So let's make it a good one. He's Dalton Pence from Locked On Louisville. I'm Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. And if you're a regular viewer or listener from one of our shows, I hope you check out the other, because I've definitely been checking Dalton out throughout the week. I know some of our listeners have. And, if you guys are Louisville fans, if you want to see what Miami's been talking about, you could check us out. And so thanks so much, Dalton. I hope we can connect again soon.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome stuff there from Dalton Pence. Nice to connect with him, and he's got a pretty good pulse of what's going on at Miami. I definitely learned a lot about what's happening in the Ville. And 12 noon, guys. 12 noon on Saturday, Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Hurricanes, Louisville Cardinals. We'll see if either of our predictions come true. Want to thank everybody for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. You want to support the show? You're on YouTube watching us. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel. If you listen to the audio version, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app, Google, and leave us a 5-star rating and review. We will be shouting some of those out later on this week. So if you leave us a review, we'll shout you out. Only if it's a good one. You leave us a crappy review, I will pretend it never happened. So leave us a nice review, and we will shout you out. And we will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Brian Smith, my colleague at allhurricanes.com and our recruiting expert here on the Locked On channel, will join us on tomorrow's episode on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.